Ladies and gentlemen, a good friend, executive coach, business consultant, he's ready to climb inside your soul as well. Best-selling author, Chuck Mache.
Hey, raise your hand if you got kids in college, high school, grammar school, preschool, infants even littler than that. Grandparents, are you? Okay, so here's the deal. This thing's over. This is all you do. Pull all those kids out of school and teach them 2 words: recurring revenue. Why didn't my daddy teach me that? Here I sit as a consultant and my recurring revenue is, I don't have any. Anyway, Jay Bradley has a great quote. He used it yesterday in the supplier briefing, and that is, don't look past, through, or around the obvious. If you've been to the last 5 channel connects, raise your hand. 6 of them. Okay. Mindshare events, raise your hand. All right. You guys know who I am, right? Let's be clear. You're not going to get rocket science out of me, right? You're going to get the truth, because we're not going to look past, through, and around the obvious. We're going to talk about Robo Partner, Robo Agent, what it takes to be the absolute best agency to walk the face of the earth. Today is 9 years and 2 days since I became associated with Intelisys. If you would have asked me, would I be standing here 9 years later, I would have bet you the answer is no. But I fell in love with the executive team. I fell in love with the model. I fell in love with the spirit of the agent community. Salespeople gone awry, right? Huh? We want to sell shit. That's what we want to do. And I fell in love with that. But we're going to talk about the hard shit. What it really takes to get good. And again, all you're going to hear from me is what it takes. Not like, wow, that's revealing. I assure you, I want you to think on yourself. How good am I in this category on a scale of 1 to 5? 5 being very good and 1 being weak. 3 being average. All right, I'm going to work this thing. There's 6 characteristics. Number 1, first and foremost, they hit their plan because they're focused on their numbers. Rachel McNeese, 7-time TPC winner, RCC, yeah, out of Richardson, Texas. Superstar salesperson turned CEO. Rachel, are you out there? No, you got a microphone. You don't just wave. Right? Talk about the journey here, hitting your plan. First of all, raise your hand if you've got a plan. Focused on numbers. Full budget. Look at the hands start going down, right? Right? Exactly. You know why? We're salespeople. But you need a plan. Rachel, talk about that journey for you, the struggle.
Sure. Yeah, that's definitely my weakness, and creating a Robo, not only for each team member, but for myself, really made me look in the mirror on my weaknesses. And to spend time on those every day isn't something that you enjoy doing. And Chuck forced me to. And raising those from 1s to, I'll be liberal and say 3.5, hopefully, was my financial acumen, and focusing on setting aside, Q4 to get ready for and budgeting for the next year. That wasn't something I enjoyed doing, nor was I good at it. But looking at it and looking at myself and knowing that that was my weakness within the Robo, and wanting to up that on all levels was something I had to do to focus on that.
Right, and there's 2 things that differentiates Intelisys from the rest of the world that absolutely can, it's not arguable. One is size. You can't argue the size that Intelisys is at compared to others that would be called competitors, okay? And the second thing is, it's an executive team that's ready to teach and mentor. And that's really driven by Rick Deller. Talk about Rick Deller and his budget process.
It's tough.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah, it can get ugly.
That's right.
For me.
Yeah.
So what's great about working with Chuck and having the Robo is that also having Rick as a mentor, it's two very different approaches to what I'm doing, but it all has the same end state goal, and that's to step up my game, to truly be a CEO and not just someone that has a business. And that means focusing on a budget.
If you have a plan, if you're focused on your numbers, if you know how much business you're going after that's consulting, TEM stuff, monthly recurring, actual revenue, if you're on that, you have a compass. If you're not, you're just out there selling, which I love. Again, I love that. But the truth is, people want to build a business, and you can't build a business just being sales-minded, and that's where the struggle is. That's where the grind is. Human beings don't do what they don't like to do very well for very long. They find a way to do something else. Rachel, 7 times TPC winner, growing rapidly because she's not leaking out the back door, because she has a plan, because she has a budget. What else?
Because I have a Robo and have you and have Rick, so I have accountability to someone, which I think being a CEO, one of the things we kind of enjoy about it is we don't have a boss, but I feel if you're not accountable to someone, then you're not going to push yourself as much.
Yeah, and let me tell you about accountability when it comes to coaching. You know, you hold yourself accountable. I'm not, people, your mentor, your coach, they can't care more than you folks. You got to care the most. And the people that you're going to hear from today, they really cared about one thing, changing. And the results are showing. Thanks a lot, Rachel.
Sure.
Okay, Robo number 2. Strategic and tactical discipline, one can't live without the other. Huh? Hit the button? Yeah, hit the button, right? That wasn't in my Robo. Right. I met Angie on an elevator in San Diego. You saw that video. Lanyap is the company I will describe that came on like a rocket ship. Platinum partner, on their way to Platinum Plus. Things now bolted down. Angie Toko, talk about strategic and tactical discipline. One can't live without the other, and for God's sake, tell the truth.
I'm not sure what you're talking about, Chuck.
Thank you.
They just told me I had to get mic'd up. So basically, we did fight the whole Chuck thing, kicking and screaming, but I'll tell you that we absolutely needed the help because we knew how to sell. That doesn't make us business owners. It doesn't make us successful. So what we had to do is we had to talk to Chuck and develop a pretty hard line and make some tough decisions when it came to getting rid of some employees that were hurting our business because they were poison. Making those decisions is tough enough, but it was very helpful to make sure we were on the right track, right? So in sitting down with Chuck and roboing those employees, it was pretty mind-blowing because some of them that we thought were doing a pretty fair job, frankly, sucked. They were negative, they were toxic. And we didn't realize that until we talked to Chuck, and Chuck roboed each of them individually. And so sitting down with Chuck and making those hard decisions and realizing, which is tough on your ego to realize that you might know how to sell something, but it doesn't make you that business owner, has forced us to get very tactical in our decisions, and we rarely make one now, with the exception of like putting purple in your hair, without talking to Chuck.
So we build one-page strategic plans with 3 important tactics that are behind it. Angie and Laura out of Phoenix run a direct model. They sell themselves, so that's what I call direct. And an indirect model, they have a sub base, right? And they do both. That's a lot of noise, a lot of stuff going on, and they have a back office. So Angie, talk about how we buttoned all that up.
So basically what we decided to do is we sat down with Chuck and worked on a plan of how we're going to grow our business, direct or indirect, which was the most important. We took a look at what is in our base today, how much of that is direct, how much of it is indirect, and we decided how to grow the fastest. Because there's only 2 of us, because we don't hire salespeople, we knew that the indirect force was where the bulk of our business needed to grow. So what we did is we sat down, we developed a plan, we developed some paperwork around that plan of how we were going to go out there and entice subs to work with us. Because let's face it, there's some brilliant people in this room. And we all say the same thing. We all say we're, customer service centric and we want to help and, we're very tactical in what we do and we're all knowledgeable. So we had to do something that we felt would differentiate ourselves. And with Chuck's help, we came up with a solid plan, and we're attracting some pretty high-quality subs, and we've put together a 2016 marketing plan that we hope will be a huge success as it relates to that, and we're already seeing some pretty good results.
A strategy to bring in new logos, a strategy to sell wide and deep, a strategy around managing your churn, a strategy around getting your arms around every renewal, a strategy around migrating to the cloud and aligning with a team of smart people that make you look good, a strategy about asking the right consulting questions to be able to open up the wound in a client, a strategy around what differentiates Lanyap over everybody else so they can attract subs, the same challenge that Intelisys has faced. And it's working, and they're on their way to Platinum Plus. So you've learned nothing new yet. It's just the real stuff, folks. And we're famous for being able to practice avoidance. I'm encouraging you to lean into your challenges so that when you look back on your month, your quarter, your year, you go, wow, we really did do it. Thanks very much, Angie. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, the one thing I will add is if you're thinking of using Chuck and you're not serious about it, or you set up that game plan and then try to phone it in, it won't work. Because I tried it, trust me. I fought Chuck, as I mentioned, kicking and screaming, and the first couple sessions I seriously tried to just phone them in. I didn't prepare, I didn't do the homework, and yeah, it was humbling.
Yeah.
So I would save your money unless you're incredibly serious, and I guess that would be...
Takes a while to get in shape.
It does. It's a strange realization, but
right.
It does.
Exactly right. Thank you. Okay. Leadership that attracts talent. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Well, I don't plan on expanding with people externally. I don't plan on hiring salespeople. I don't plan on growing my sub-agents. But you are, if you're going to grow, going to have a back room that's very efficient. And you know the mistake we make as salespeople? We treat external so much more importantly than we treat internally. And that is insane. But a lot of us aren't sane, right? We leak out the back. Danny Passacantilli, you here? Where? Yeah. That guy, stand up, Danny. So Danny is Bluefront Technology Group out of Boston, Massachusetts. He's got a lot of government business. He is the most networked human being I've ever met in a community. Knows everybody. But as an example, all he ever thought was externally. Right, Dan?
Correct.
So talk about it.
I was able to cure a lot of the problems I had internally with revenue, because you come from sales, so all we know is selling, right? We're agents. We sell stuff, like Chuck said, and that served me well when I was 1- and 2-person shop, because you can get over a problem with revenue, and that's what I did. And then when we started to grow a little bit and started to be a little bit more inflective, we started to see that there was more churn than we would have liked, and there wasn't very good leadership. It was just all sales. So to Rachel's point, going from a salesperson to a CEO, it was painful, and it still is, and it always is for someone who's just wants to sell and not spend a lot of time on specific tasks that fundamentally grow the business. And it wasn't until Chuck came in, and I've said this before, it's like, when you work in a barn, you don't smell what it smells like until someone else comes in and tells you what you're really dealing with, and that's what Chuck did, and it was very, very helpful, and it's helping me now put on probably a couple new hires I don't think I would have gotten if not for the infrastructure that we've been able to build around these new people coming in.
You can't outrun your churn unless you do 2 things. You have a new logo strategy that's driving business on the front end, and you're stopping the bleeding on the back end, because you know 2 real important dates. When's it install and when's it renew? And the amount of people that I've met that are not all over what could be coming is a little bit shocking, because recurring revenue, right? Remember, pull everybody out of school and just teach them that, and they will create wealth. And many of you have done it. Danny, when we met, it's no secret, you're all over the place, chasing business, and I say to you, that's a great deodorant for your real problems, right? But it smells. We've added to the back office. We've streamlined everybody's position. We've had Carol Beering, who if you don't engage Carol Beering on process, HR challenges, details in the back room, you are missing one of the biggest weapons that Intelisys has to offer. Now, under the direction of the ownership team, everybody is into development. You see, the thing is, folks, about Intelisys, we're not here selling you to become anything other than the best you can be. And if you want to join Intelisys, we're going to throw every single resource that we have at making you successful, as long as you're willing to go hard at it. Man, that's a big differentiator. Danny, you weren't a big Intelisys person.
No, I discussed that with you, with a couple people yesterday who asked me about, the recent growth spurt that we had, and I attribute a lot of it to Chuck, having Chuck involved in the company, but I also bought into the culture at Intelisys, where I've been able to realize talent or resources that I would never be able to get as a 6-person shop in Boston, Massachusetts, leveraging the technology, the mind share, the consultation with Carol, talking to everyone in our back office.
Mike Ketchum.
Mike Ketchum.
Rick Deller.
Rick Deller, unfortunately, yes.
Jay.
I deal with him. Jay.
Yeah.
I try to stay.
How about Dana? Anything about Dana?
No, I don't like Dana.
Okay.
But that's but it's and again, I joke around with people like that I'm almost a little jealous of Gearhart, because he gets to be the guy that tells everyone about Intelisys. Well, I'm trying to do that in Boston for no selfish reason. It's because when people ask me, how did you do it, or how did you get to this, or I saw you at President's Club again, it was attributed to I buying in there and being able to leverage all those things I never had access to before, being in the position I was in. And it started with even in operations, where something I never did in sales, Carol was able to kind of get into the puts and takes with my back office, and we trimmed some people, and then we determined roles, and we got a better process in place, and now we have weekly calls, but at least once or twice a month, the entire team joins the call with Carol and or Chuck, and it's paid dividends, because it's created a better environment for us to work in for both quality of life issues for everybody who's in Telecom West to do this stuff 24/7 or waiting for a FOC date that they're frustrated with. You know, we kind of try to control that environment in which it's not overwhelming to the people within the organization.
Danny, you understand leverage as well as anybody in this room. You understand how to use it in your deals, and now you're starting to understand how to use it with your team through various incentives, rewarding them for behavior, training programs. Talk about what that's done.
Well, it's back to what I just said a minute ago. It was just leveraging the resources, again, not to be repetitive, at Intelisys, because I joke around that I'm the only agent in Boston that can fix your jury duty and your speeding tickets.
He means it.
And so you use that for leverage to get a deal. But now I've been able to use the business that I'm delivering to whoever I can bring it to, any master agent or any carrier direct. Instead, I'm leveraging it into, instead of just asking for 2 more points, I'd rather have Rick Deller on the phone to say, Rick, what am I doing right or wrong, or what do you see here? And sometimes they're tough conversations, or the recommendation to use Chuck, which fundamentally has changed the business. And then, you know, now I use Stacy Pompey as our attorney to do our contractual stuff for both our professional service practice and for our sub-agents. Those are things I would have never, ever had access to if not for Intelisys.
Right, so stay right there. So the next one, can build, lead, manage, and support an army. Talk about some of your external and internal expansion plans that we have on the 2016 plan.
Sure. I have a direct and indirect model. I started out as a regular sale, just doing everything myself, and then it led to some sub-agents, and then some of them come on. Some of them were here today, right? I call them direct subs. So I'm putting on some people who are going to be direct and only carry a blue front logo. And then I have other subs who have their own card, their own logo, their own brand identity. And I like them to even have their own identity with the carriers, however they clear through Blue Front. So part of that strategy for next year is going to be adding 3, I want to call them higher-end salespeople to the mix.
He has a unique way of attracting talent that's extremely loyal. Very weak systems, procedures in place. I'm going back a year. And they made up with everything in hustle, which speaks to, you know, the quality of who they are as human beings. But once we got under the hood and realigned things, brought Carol in, Mike Ketchum, other resources, now guess what? Complete denoise. And you know what? You know what that does to the inside team? There's nowhere to hide now. Stop whatever objection you have between you and getting it done, because there's nowhere to hide. We have process and procedure.
And we can take vacations without having to get aggravated during your vacation, or come to a trip like this and not have your phone blow up, which to me wasn't ever a reality when you first had your company. I thought it was normal to live that way, but now I'm starting to realize it's really abnormal to have your phone going off at all hours of the night.
And the thing that he didn't get, the dots that he didn't connect, is that back room that he had in the state that it was in was very powerful, because what his sub-team felt and what his customers felt was not the same amount of noise, because they were just that good. They masked it. And what he did is he just keeps throwing revenue on it. So maybe he throws 300,000 or 400,000 of brand new business on in a year, but we're leaking half of that. But it's okay. Look, I'm up 200. That's stupid thinking, right? You don't have to do that. You shouldn't punish yourself that way. In fact, if you want to say, well, what is an acceptable amount of churn? Mike, are you in the audience? Catch? 5%? Is that a number for a typical partnership? Churn 5% a year? Yeah. Yeah, I got to tell you, the guys that are clicking are hitting right around 5%, right? Okay, thanks. All right, Ed Gearhart. I'm clapping for you, Danny. You owe me. In-N-Out Burger. Ed Gearhart, Subsidium, New York, Platinum Plus, the only one we have in the building, ladies and gentlemen, Subsidium. He and his partner, John Bova, they in my view, and you know, it's 9 years of roaming around with you guys, and I probably work with 14 of you and a couple carriers, not including Intelisys. It is the finest backroom operation that I've seen. And it wasn't like that a year ago, Ed. You know, you have a repeatable and scalable machine, and talk about a little bit about the before after on that.
Yeah. So, and thanks for the compliment, Chuck. So, you know, I think we recognized early on when we started that we needed to make sacrifices and invest in people early, so that we had the right resources to manage our customers and align with the way that we think in our culture for supporting customers. You know, because we knew that retention was crucial. In the MRR business, you know, 10% of $20,000 is great for 3 years, but it's even better for, you know, 10, 20 years. So we always concentrated on customer experience and making sure that we had people that were aligned with us and our vision and that were there to support our customers and help them. So, you know, it's definitely accurate to say that, you know, finding ways to invest in a back office and helping support your customers is great. But we evolved into just a very reactionary group until we aligned with Chuck and the Intelisys executive team, who really just took the lid off of our business and said, you got great people, but there's no structure. It's where are you going? They don't know where you're going. They don't know what the alignment is. They don't know what their development plans are and what the goals and objectives of the business are. They're just, you know, managing tasks. So, you know, that was very helpful for Intelisys.
Talk about how you elevated a diamond in the rough to run that back office.
Yeah, we really, our first employee, you know, she was always in a quasi oversight capacity, but, you know, I think it was really Carol who saw in her that she had more in her, and working closely with Carol, she really was able to develop a plan, and we were able to, you know, we're all control freaks, right? And we were able to divest things that we typically wouldn't have been able to let go in the past. And it was a triangulation between Chuck and Carol and us to actually, you know, see that, because you don't see it yourself until somebody hits you in the head with a bat and say, you got somebody really good who could be a hell of a lot better if you just give them the confidence and you know, let them take some actions independently and you empower them.
With you and John, it sort of takes a bat sometimes, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right on, right on. And imagine this, will you? At the end of, right before the end of each quarter, there's 4 account managers, right? 4 or 5, yeah. All right? They all know the patch that they're working. They all know their monthly recurring number. A quarter starts and it's at 100 grand for the heck of it. A quarter ends and it's at 110 or it's at 90. We all know they make money on that 100 to 110. They're not salespeople. They're attentive, reactive, and proactive people who solve problems, not pitch stuff. Imagine that. Imagine everybody with a clear robo of them, and you're meeting with them, and they know exactly how good they are, and they know what their monthly recurring is doing. And then imagine a small bonus program around behaviors like the CRM, continuing education. And you're growing a company now, man. You aren't just selling stuff. You're growing a company. Ed, I got to tell you, I respect the heck out of Subsidium and what you guys are doing, and it's a pleasure to be working with you.
Great.
All right,
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much. All right. And to save the last, which I won't say is the best, but I will guarantee you it's entertaining.
I'll say it's the best.
You will. He will. He'll tell you. They have another gear.
But Mackey's only half Italian.
Can I give you an intro?
And I think if he was 100% Italian, I think the guy would be more legitimate. Unfortunately, he's only half, and that's why he's bald. okay? And he's always frustrated in the weight room. If you ever watch him work out, he works out like he's in prison.
Dealing with you, I am in prison, bro. Huh? You know who I wanted to be? All right. Anyway, they have another gear, right? So that means a lot of things. What do you mean they have another gear? It means everything that I'm talking about. Another gear doesn't mean I just go harder. Y'all got that. You wouldn't be here. It means they hunker down and they do what they don't want to do because they know at the end of that journey, they love what they do. Here's a man who I call the hardest working human being in telecom. Stevie Gearhart, are you here? Where's the champ?
Right here.
Okay, there he is. He's the guy up there. He needed a belt. He got a belt. It's what he needed. Okay, people, I get it. It's a little different. All right? Talk to us, Stevie.
I still have the belt, and I'm going to come back next year for another one. But for real. And I think the one thing about getting into that next gear is that you have to keep setting goals. And for myself, that every day, every month, every year, I always reach out for a goal. And I was talking to Chuck this morning. Last year, we're sitting together, and I said, next year, I want to sell $1 million in new business.
Yeah.
It was in December.
Yeah.
And I know Chuck said I was nuts, but because I am. But literally, where we are right now, where I've sold is I'm just a little over $800,000 for the year, and I still got 2.5 months to go. But I told Chuck, we're definitely going to hit this. I mean, that's that another gear that Chuck's talking about. It's never enough for me. It's like my aphrodisiac. When I make a sale, and it's a $200,000 sale, once it gets signed and sent into the carrier, I kid you not, I'm back on the phone 5 minutes later like I never made a sale. It's a drive that I have, and everybody in this room, we're all salespeople, and I know we all have that same exact drive. It's the winners, the people who have all the success, have a very common trait. Think of all the people who are successful. Every time that phone rings, that person answers their phone all the time. Immediately. If they don't answer it, you're surprised. But you know what's going to happen? They call you right back. All the people who do that, they're all successful. Everybody who's successful has a common theme. They work hard. They're very committed. I care for my customers' business more than my customers care, and that's why my customers love us. Why? Because they know I care.
What happens? What do you do to make sure when that CIO leaves the client, that the company you serve, and they go somewhere else, and most people are in turmoil? What have you done to help yourself in that regard?
The one thing I do is when you're selling somebody, maybe it's the CIO or the director of infrastructure, they all have a whole team of people, right? And we kind of blow those people off, but I don't. I sell that whole entire team. And if you do the same thing, you'll have a lot of success. Why? Because the CIO, he's moving someplace else.
That's another gear, folks.
Who's his second call? Me. When the second guy is in charge, he's in charge. We have a relationship. The underling people, what are they doing? They're going someplace else. Who are they going to call? Why? Because we built a relationship with them.
That's
it's
another
working
gear.
smarter. It's not working harder. Build a relationship with that whole entire chain of command, and that's your whole entire referral base. It works for me. I'm not the smart guy in the room. I know all the smart people in the room, and I think that's what makes me smart. Work smarter, not harder.
You wouldn't happen to know your Abe Lincoln quote?
I do. I do have an Abe Lincoln quote, and I gave it to Chuck a couple of months ago. And the quote is, "Things come to those who wait, but only the things left behind from the people who hustle." So at the end of the story here is the things that I can't get to, that's what you guys are getting, because I'm hustling for everything else.
Okay, you can sit down now. Steve Gearhart, ladies and gentlemen, Platinum. I want to tell you something. Robo partner is perfection. It is a puzzle that can't be solved by its design. You never get there because the Robo changes. And here's the thing for you. It's the journey and the pain of getting there that is the reward, because the look back is massive. So don't for 1 second sit in this audience and think, I can't do that, because that is not necessarily your Robo. That's the perfect Robo. And there isn't any individual that stood up today that's hitting on all cylinders. I assure you of that. You all have potential, and there's only one thing that's in the way of it, and it's you. Because what I just laid on you is not rocket science. The weak will find ways to shoot holes in it. The weak will find ways to avoid it. For God's sakes, ladies and gentlemen, what are the two words? That's a brass ring falling right in front of you. Please, please do yourself a favor and reach out and grab that ring. Build a real business. Don't just sell shit and get hooked on the ether of your ability to close. Build a business, and you too someday, believe it or not, can be an Intelisys. Just have someone tell, the people that have another gear, just tell them they can't, and then step aside. The journey to the next level is not a one-size-fits-all proposition, and that's my point. Okay? It requires, though, the truth about your intentions. What are you really committed to, and what are you really going to do, and how the hell much of it is self-talk BS that we all have? Get to the truth and make your move. The outcome doesn't matter. The fight does. All right? Thank you very much. Have a great PPC.